Hello everyone and welcome to another video in which I barely put any effort into. And the script as usual is gonna suck, with a lot of me sucking at speaking. Today we'll be ranking all the choices in The Walking Dead Season 1 from worst to best. By worst to best, I mean which choices matter and which ones don't actually matter. To be honest, none of them really matter all too much, the story ends the same way, but I digress, who cares. They'll be ranked off two criteria. Number one is how much does this affect the story itself? What does it change? And number two will be how much does it affect the player themselves? How does the player feel bad, happy about his choices, or not? Two more things before we move on. I'd like to clarify that these will only be ranked off based Season 1 instead of Season 2, 3, and 4. So any actions that affect Season 2, 3, or 4, or get brought back up again in Season 2, 3, or 4 won't matter at all. It'll be only Season 1 based. I'd also like to clarify that choices that involve characters that matter, by that I mean characters such as Clementine, Kenny, and Ben will all have more points or will be ranked higher on average than choices that involve characters such as Strangers, Herschel, or Vernon. Now, there are 29 choices in the game, in my opinion, including the 26 endgame choices that get shown at the end of each episode, and 3 more I deemed important enough. Let's get on with the video now. Number 29 is being truthful towards Herschel at the farm. So it doesn't really matter what you pick here. A lot of these bottom decisions don't matter at all. You can do whatever you want and it changes next to nothing. I only included this one because I felt as if I have to because it appeared at the end of the episode, and that's going to be a common theme going forward with a lot of these earlier decisions. They don't truly matter, but I have to include them. They appear at the end of the episode. Lie or be honest to Herschel, it changes nothing. You never see him again, and he kicks you off the farm either way. Number 28. Threatening Vernon. Like the last one, doesn't matter at all. It changes a couple of dialogue, but besides that, you're either nice to Vernon and take the gun from him, or you're either threaten the whole group and take the gun from him. No matter what you do, it ends the same way, doesn't change much, doesn't really deserve a spot, but here we are. Number 27, help Omid or help Krista. So this is another one where it doesn't matter at all what you pick. This ends pretty much right after you do the option. They never talk about it again. But this one is higher than the last two because I absolutely love the response Omid gives when you choose to save him over Krista. You pick him and he says, how dare you not save her, she's a woman, which based Omid. But yeah, besides that making me laugh, there's nothing else really. Number 26, leave at day or leave at night. The very first choice you'll make in the game isn't even at the end of the episode or doesn't show you the percentage. But this is technically the first choice you make, and I found it important enough to count on this list. While it doesn't exactly affect too much, it does affect enough that I feel like it deserves a spot. What it changes is that when you meet up with Sean, it'll change who's with them. If you go at day, you'll meet up with his friend Chet. If you go at night, you'll meet with his friend Andre. And if you go at night, Chet will be dead and zombified. But if you go at day, you'll never see Andre, so you never meet him. And I felt as if that was important enough to count on this list. I mean, it's definitely more important than the choices before. It actually changes something somewhat, so I felt as if it deserved this spot. At number 25, give your weapons up to the stranger. This is another one that I don't think changes anything at all. I'm pretty sure the only way this guy can die is either Lee chokes him out and then shoots him if you want to or not, or Clementine shoots him before he chokes Lee out. I'm not even sure if it's possible to kill him with your weapon that you have on you, so there's really no point in keeping it or giving it up. It doesn't change anything. If it does, then please let me know. I've never seen it, but if it doesn't, then oh well. The only reason it's this high up is because I felt that story-wise, it mattered more than the ones before, so that's why it's up here. Number 24, give Irene the gun or not. If you don't know who Irene is, I don't blame you. They never say her name except in the credits. Irene's the girl at the motel who shoots herself, whether or not you choose to give her the gun. The reason why she's on this spot is because if you choose not to let her have the gun, she'll actually charge you and break the railing, and if that happens, that railing stays broken in episode 2 and 3, which is a neat little detail. And also, Glenn gives some commentary about your choice, but that doesn't really help it too much since Glenn leaves right at the end of episode 1 anyways, and never seen again, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Number 23, who gets fed? This is, in my opinion, the last of the bad choices in the game. So, by bad choices, of course, I mean choices that don't really do anything. So the reason why this one is the best in my opinion is I feel like it affects the story the most to a decent degree. Not really, but to me it does. And also I love the dialogue depending on who you feed. Like if you feed the kids but not Kenny, then he's all happy and he says how he doesn't care as long as you feed the kids. Like how based he usually is. But if you don't feed the kids, he's all pissed off at you, and I don't even blame him. Or if you don't feed Larry, he's mad as well. So because of that, I feel as if it deserved this spot. Number 22, cut off David's leg or not. Now this is when we get to the choices that I considered to be decent. If you don't remember, David is the instructor of Travis and Ben, and depending on if you cut off his leg or not, either David dies later on, or Travis dies later on, and the other one dies instantly right after. One of the things I used to do was I would cut off David's leg to the max before it actually got chopped off, and I'd leave him to be eaten by the walkers, which was an absolute asshole move. Don't do that unless you're in the mood to be just evil for no reason. Or, well, not really evil. It is evil, but more of an ass, to be honest. So it doesn't really matter who you save. I put it up here as the worst of the decent decisions because it actually made me laugh at how Travis's dumbass died. Like, what the heck was he doing, man? Really? How do you die there, you dumbass? And also at how you could cut off David's leg and just leave him there anyways. So yeah, doesn't matter who you save, they still get infected and die, and Ben explains that everyone's infected and whatnot. So yeah. Number 21, shoot Jolene or not. Another one that doesn't matter too much, but the story significance was enough to put it up here. If you shoot Jolene, then you don't really get much at all of anything. But if you let her speak out, she talks about a bit of her backstory and whatever else she talks about, and most importantly, she's about to rant on the farm and explain the truth to Lee. But Danny, I'm pretty sure it's Danny, the one in the blue shirt, domes her right in the eye right before she could spill the truth. So that immediately puts suspicion on your mind as if why he would shoot her right as she was about to talk about the barn. Or farm, or whatever you want to call it. Which in turn helps the player realize that there has to be something going on with the farm. And because of that, I felt it was important enough to put up here. Number 20, robbing the car. So, robbing the car doesn't change anything. It made it here due to the story significance, as this is how the stranger came into the picture, which even gets brought up later in episode 5, of how your group took from him, which caused all the conflict. It also affects how Clementine feels about you, so it gets bonus points for that. Number 18, shoot the lady at the drugstore. At the start of episode 3, alongside Kenny, you'll encounter a lady screaming, and she's dragging all the walkers out. You can either choose to let her drag all the walkers out, siding with Kenny, or put her out of her misery before they infect her and shoot her. This, just like the last spot, affects a future spot, and this is more of a sort of test the character, in a way. As, would you be willing to sacrifice a human life and have them suffer in order for your own gain? So, that gets it up here. Number 17, kill the St. John brothers. Danny and Andy can both either be spared or killed. The first villains of the game, in my opinion, are more just normal people who felt as if they had no other choice in order to survive, so they resorted to cannibalism. While I'm not justifying them, I can see why they're doing it. Specifically with Andy, as he seems more remorseful over it than Danny, and their mother, Brenda, who dies no matter what, seems to be the most remorseful, as you can use this idea of how she sort of betrayed her husband's legacy by doing this. Which shows that, at the very least, her and Andy have some form of remorse for this. Danny's a bit more crazy, though. This is another test of character, as, are you really willing to kill them when they were leaving you alone? They were only trying to kill you because you messed with them first. How exactly will this affect the group's perspective of you? How will Clementine feel? To be honest, I'm digging a little deep on this one, so let's move on. Number 16, shoot the boy at the house. First arriving at the house in episode 4 meets you with a very kind of heartbreaking moment. Kenny finds a boy dead of dehydration or possible starvation. He comments on how the boy looks like Duck, and he knows what must be done. You have to put him out of his misery, just how you guys put Duck out of his misery, or left him alone. You can either kill the boy, which gives you points with Kenny, gets you guys closer. You can have Kenny do it, just like how you could have had Kenny do it with Duck. Or, this time, however, if you choose to leave, Krista instead will come up and do it for you. A solid choice, and it finds you right at the middle of this spot. Number 15, leave Lily or keep her. If I were to include moments from future games and had them affect rankings on this list, this would be a bit higher up, but since we're not, it finds itself here at number 15, right in the middle. In this moment, Lily attempts to shoot either Ben or Carly, depending on if you saved Carly or Doug. If she shoots Carly, Carly dies. If she shoots at Ben, Doug will take the bullet for him. Which, base Doug, the realest of real ones. This really doesn't affect too much. I found it as like a kind of middle ground, because if you do take her, she does take the van, and if you've been siding with her, you can even try to get her to take her with you, to which, when you get out of the van, or RV, whatever you want to call it, she ends up abandoning you. So, this is one of those moments that shows that it doesn't matter at all if you sided with her. It's best to side with Kenny in any possible moment. And because of that, it finds us out here in the middle of number 15. Number 14, hide the bite or not. After being bitten at the end of episode 4, you can either show the group or hide it. If you hide it, Krista and Omid will not come with you to find Clementine, and vice versa, if you show it to them, they will come with you no matter what. Besides that, this moment changes so much about the story that it's earned this spot. putting a ticking time bomb on your life just as Clementine had gone missing. I can only imagine the amount of actual emotional damage that this did the players when it first came out and everyone's first playthrough, so I believe that this spot is well earned. Number 13, arguing with Kenny. A combination of anger, sadness, and betrayal culminates into this. Kenny knows that something has to be done about Lee in case things go south with his bite. He's right about it, but how do you want to take it? Your possible best friend or closest thing you have to a best friend at this moment is telling everyone that, hey, this guy's infected and we have to do something in case he turns. So how are you going to react if you were in Lee's shoes? Besides that, solid spot, number 13. Number 12, take Clementine to Crawford. Taking Clementine to Crawford gives us extra time with her, and I believe that's enough justification for this spot. In all seriousness, while she doesn't directly influence the plot of Crawford too much, she does have some pretty cool moments and cute moments involving how you can talk to her inside the classroom about her school life. And she'll have a moment where when Molly gets grabbed by a walker, she'll shoot the walker right in the head before he could possibly get a shot in. And she also gets a say-in on the vote over if Ben is going to stay or not. Or at the very least, you can say she has a say-in or deny her. And to be honest, any moment with Clementine right before she disappears in episode 4 is extra bonus points for me. Number 11, side with Kenny or side with Larry. The argument between if Duck was bitten or not was essentially the start of things to come for the group and how inevitably they would have collapsed. We learn about both characters' goals here. Kenny just wants to protect his family, and Larry is the same way. He wants to protect his daughter. Both have reasons to act the way they want. Even if Larry's coming off as the bad guy, if you look at it from his perspective, you'll understand why he's doing it. Another reason is is a bit more biased on my part, but I absolutely love this scene. It's one of the funniest scenes in the game, even if it's trying to be serious, mainly because of Larry's absolutely insane and hilarious lines. He has this one line where he goes, "You're gonna whoop me? You and what homo parade?" And then Kenny fires back with "this one," with Larry going, "Oh, that's rich," and then proceeds to tell Duck that he's gonna eat his mom alive. Like, this guy was brutal. And if you tell Kenny to punch Larry, he'll punch him. Larry will just tank the dang punch, knock Kenny out in one single hit. It's like, oh my Jesus. This guy Larry is an absolute unit. We all may hate Larry, or you may like him because he's hilarious like me, but we can't deny this guy was an absolute tank of a unit. Number 10, fight or reason with Kenny. Kenny is a man whose last goal in life is to protect his family. So what can he do when he can't protect them? Duck has bitten and he's dying, and Kenny knows this, but he can't accept it. I always prefer to reason with Kenny over fighting with him, as by reasoning with him, you dive more into his character and his beliefs. Kenny, after all this time, still believes that it's his fault that Sean died. Had Kenny helped Sean on the farm, right after helping Duck, Sean would be alive, and in turn, Duck would never have been bitten because he believes that the world, having Duck being bitten and dying, is revenge for him allowing Sean to die. This is grief that never leaves Kenny. He continues to have this throughout the rest of the game, and this moment perfectly shows it, how he refuses, he's trying to deny what he believes is his fate, yet at the end of the day, you can't escape fate. Number 9, kill the stranger. Whose fault is it that Clementine was kidnapped? Was it Lee's for not checking on her more and falling asleep with her right in front of him? Was it Carly or Doug's for giving her the batteries for the walkie-talkie in the first place? Or was it the whole group for robbing the car? Or is it the man who kidnapped her? Probably the man who kidnapped her, to be honest. The stranger dies no matter what. Either Lee kills him or Clementine kills him. This is essentially the final battle. He's defeated and he's gone. But how much of a bad guy was he really when the only reason he came after you was because you guys messed with him first? Had you never messed with him, he would never have come after you. I'm reaching here in my opinion. I know I'm reaching here, but I feel as if this deserves a spot, as this is a conflict that could have been prevented by so many possible opportunities in the past. And you realize this if you play it again. Had they done this differently, the rest of the game would never have happened. And everyone would possibly, or most people who died, would still be alive. Number 8, Doug's fate. Kenny is a man who, in his eyes, has committed much wrong, and he knows this. And as he put it, the world couldn't let him go freely for all he's done. His son is dead, his wife couldn't take it and killed herself, he's lost everything. And you're given the choice to help continue the suffering or end it in a way. You can either shoot Duck, have Kenny kill him, or just leave him there, to be turned into a walker. This choice, like many others in the past, or like a few others, affects Kenny's relationship with you and a future choice, which is why it gets up here, and also the sheer story and emotional significance it has. Number 7, cut off your arm or not. This one hurts the most, literally and figuratively, because in a way, this was a good idea. It would have worked had they done it sooner. But they didn't. Lee chose to go after Clementine, and the bite was able to spread. This is a choice where I still choose to cut Lee's arm off, because I can't prevent myself from thinking that maybe this time, if I cut it off this time, then maybe it'll work. Lee will survive, but that's never gonna happen, which is why it makes it up here. Maybe if Telltale ever makes a new game that's like an alternate universe where Lee survived, maybe cutting his arm off would save him. That would be a pretty cool game. Number 6, save Duck or Sean. The very first choice that matters to an extent, since Sean dies no matter what and you're kicked off the farm. But the sheer thrill a new player will get here, having to pick between saving a child or saving Sean who saved you, is enough to shoot it up all the way to number 6. This single moment is what kicks off the beginning of Kenny's character arc. The death of Sean, a death which proceeds to haunt him for the entirety of the game, especially in episode 3. Oh, one thing, I recommend googling The Walking Dead Season 1, how to save Sean, and you'll find so many people actually trying to find a way to save him. Poor guy, honestly, because I wanted to save him too, but you just can't. Try googling that though, and read all those things, because it's kind of sad to read them all, knowing that these people just want to save Sean, but you can't. Number 5, kill Larry or try to save him. Really, any decision involving Kenny gets extra points, as always, including this one and the one before. Here's my biased response, by the way. I do like Larry a lot because he's the funniest character, at least in my opinion, in the whole series. Not just this game, but the entire franchise. In my opinion, this is the moment in the game where the group truly began to fall apart. Like, when it cemented itself that, yeah, this group is not going to last longer. You just had one of the leading members kill the other leading member's dad. So that is not a recipe for good success. And it's understandable why both sides wanted to do what they wanted to do. That's Lily's dad, and he's the last thing she has, like, a connection to. Everyone else in her family is gone. So killing this is pretty much killing everything she's ever known. Well, with Kenny looked at it as if, in a more selfish way, but understandable way too. If Larry is dead, and he turns, they're screwed. Remember, Larry as a human was able to one punch knock out Kenny in a single hit. Larry turned, they were truly screwed. Even Kenny puts it, we'd be here with a 6'4", 300-pound, seriously pissed off dead guy. Which is true, they would have been dead. Well, it doesn't matter what you pick here truly, it does affect Kenny's relationship with you and Lily's, so it gets here at number 5. Number 4, who comes with you to find Clementine? At this point, you've been bitten, and right after, you have to find Clementine. If you choose to hide the bite or show it, it'll either have Krista and Naomi not come with you, or it'll come with you no matter what. It all depends on hiding or showing the bite. If you saved Ben from the Crawford, he'll come with you if you can convince him. Kenny is the unique one though, as Kenny is the culmination of all your past decisions involving him. The important ones, so to say, such as saving Duck, or Sean, or helping him kill Larry or not. This is a moment that truly shows the bond you and Kenny could have had this entire game. Whether or not you were nice to him the whole game, or on his side essentially, and he comes with you no matter what, you were in the middle ground, so he's neutral about it, or you were against him at all times, and he doesn't come with you no matter what. I always prefer to have it so only Kenny and Lee go, because I feel as if I like treating it as one last adventure between friends before the inevitable of Lee's death happens. And by friends, I mean assholes, because let's be honest, siding with Kenny most of the game, you were just being a mega asshole, which I can't deny and I absolutely love. I love you, Kitty. Before we make it to our top 3, let's mention 2 honorable mentions. Number 1, pushing Clementine on the swing. If you don't push Clementine on the swing, you have to restart your entire game file. Not just the dang last save, your entire file has to be restarted. Sorry, bro, but that's the law. In all seriousness, always push Clementine on the swing. It's nice to do. It doesn't really count as a choice, and it's more of a bonus thing. And if it was counted as a choice, then it'd be number 1, so be glad I didn't count it. Number 2 is having Larry eat raw flesh, or human flesh. Yeah, this is another one that's not really a choice, more of a bonus thing, but it's hilarious. You have to tell people not to eat the food, and then right after call the woman crazy. And then you should get the prompt to tell Larry, fuck you, Larry, eat up. And you should eat the raw human flesh. Or not really raw, but you get the point. It's probably the funniest moment in not only in the entire game, but the entire series. Having Larry eat human flesh and then munch it right in front of you with that mug of his. Before we move on to our top 3, I'd also like to say that all of these are interchangeable. You could swap number 1 with number 2, or number 1 with number 3, and whatever, and I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't say you're wrong. They're all very close in importance. I just believe these 3 are more important than the other ones before. Now let's move on. Number 3, Ben's fate. Ben is the final piece for Candy's character arc. Ben is also one of the most hated characters in the entire series, and I get why, but that's not why we're here. If you let Ben fall in Crawford, you take away something from Kenny, his resolution to his story for Season 1, in my opinion. Ben is one of the big reasons why the group fell apart, and he's the main reason as to why Kenny lost his family. After Ben admits this, Kenny wants to do nothing more but to kill Ben right there and then, even when the walkers are about to get them. And while dropping Ben does make Kenny happy, I don't believe this is the better choice for Kenny's character arc. This instead happens in episode 5 if you choose to keep Ben alive. After the bow was stolen, Kenny proceeds to rage at Ben even if Ben wasn't at fault and he went with you guys or was with Krista and Omid defending the boat. This rage finally causes Ben to actually snap for the first time in the game and yell back instead of being timid as he usually is. Ben rants on how Kenny was at the very least, while he lost his family, he was able to say goodbye, while Ben, meanwhile, has no idea how his family is. They could be dead, or zombified, or worse, and he has no idea. And this allows Kenny to see Ben in a new light. While he still hates Ben, he now understands him more, as we see later on. When Ben falls and is impaled and he's pretty much doomed, once the walkers start coming into the area, Kenny realizes that there's only one way to put an end to this. No matter what you pick, Kenny will lock you behind the gate, and you can beg for him to open it, but he won't listen, and he'll proceed to fight some walkers off before going to Ben. As Ben is terrified, screaming for Kenny's help, saying, Kenny please, begging him for some form of help, all you hear is a single gunshot, Ben's screaming stops, and Kenny suddenly disappears into the horde. Had you spoken to Ben in episode 3 while the train was stopped, right after the death of Kenny's family, Ben would have admitted that his biggest fear was becoming a walker, and that if he was ever surrounded, he'd rather end it all right then and there than become one. Despite everything Ben had done, how he's arguably the main cause for episodes 3, 4, and 5, and how, out of everyone who suffered because of his actions, the man who suffered most, Kenny, chose to forgive him and spare him of a fate worse than death. This ends Kenny's character arc for Season 1. Kenny, a Christian man, as he puts it himself. One of the most iconic scenes in gaming history and arguably the most heartbreaking. Lee's death in episode 5 has stuck with us ever since episode 5 released. In my opinion, it's why this is one of the greatest video games ever made, and the greatest story ever told in gaming. We all wanted Lee to survive, but we knew that once he was bitten, it was all but a matter of time before it took him away. You've taught Clementine all you can, thanks to Chuck warning you that what if you weren't there for Clementine? What if something happened to you? You scoffed at it, you rubbed it off, but it stuck with you, making you teach Clementine the importance of survival. And Chuck was right. You're dying now. So what do? Do you have Clementine shoot you, end it all, or prevent her from suffering even more trauma by having a different form of trauma and leaving you? I think everyone dreads this ending every single time they replay this game. I know I do. I always try to see if there's a way I could change it. Maybe if I do something differently, it'll change this time, but nothing ever works. No matter what you do, Lee will always die, and it hurts every single time. I usually have Clementine shoot Lee, as I believe this is the beginning of her evolution into a capable survivor. Her first steps into the real world is preventing her guardian, the man who's protected her ever since this whole thing started, from becoming one of them. Maybe one day Telltale will make a game in which Lee survives and it's like an alternate universe. It doesn't have to be the main line, it could be an alternate universe, as I said. While it will ruin the ending of this one, in my opinion, I think we just all want to see Lee alive again. Thank you, Lee, for everything, and goodbye, my friend. Number 1, Doug or Carly. The easiest part of this list was getting my top 3. The hardest part was ranking them, as all 3 do the criteria very well. But in my opinion, this one, if you combine both criteria, did the best job of combining them both. And that's picking either Doug or Carly at the end of episode 1. This is, in my opinion, the most iconic and story-impacting choice in the whole game. This choice has effects on every episode, whether it be character attitudes, opinions, dialogue, and more. Well, in the end, they both die the same way. The way of how each bring their own uniqueness in the story with their characters was just too big to not put them at number 1. I love both characters a lot, but I'm biased and I can't deny that picking Carly is the objective better option from a story and character perspective. It sucks because Doug is a pretty funny and cool dude. He genuinely cares about the group and wants everyone to stay together and calm. He's even willing to push Ben out of the way, and he took the bullet for Ben when Lily attempts to shoot him, showing off just how loyal of a man he was. Sadly, Carly just does that more in just the same amount of time, and it's not even fair. Putting them against each other to pick is just objectively unfair. You're gonna pick Carly 90% of the time because Carly is just better. Which is sad because, like I said, I like Doug, but Carly is just a better option. Carly as a character was done perfectly in my opinion. She's trustworthy, she's loyal, she's kind yet serious when she needs to be. She's actually useful to the group as she's their best shooter. She saves your life and many others many times and even gets saved herself. And she doesn't make any quirky comments about it that annoy you. Choosing to save Carly also allows Lee to develop better. With Carly saved, she can convince Lee to tell the other group members about his past. While with Doug, you can't tell them. No matter what you do with Doug, Lee won't be able to tell the group about his past. Only Carly allows him to do this. She isn't afraid to stand up to members when they're in over their head, mainly show whenever Kenny or Lily argue over stupid stuff, she's always trying to have them stop, calm down, or just doesn't get involved because she understands how dumb it is. They can't argue, they have to stay together. This is shown even more when Lily is accusing Ben of being the traitor, and then accuses Carly herself of doing it, which causes Carly to go off on her once they go outside, and this sadly leads to her death as Lily had enough of her and shot her in the head. Carly's character was enough to drive this choice all the way into the top 5, but thanks to having the option of being able to save Doug and having a whole new perspective as well, this was able to put it into number 1, as both offer their own pros and cons. It's just, with my opinion, I just believe Carly is the better option and offers more than Doug does.
Don't call me small.
Thanks for watching, everyone. I know my script writing is absolute garbage, but I'll work on it. Not. Hopefully I will, okay? My next big video will be on my personal favorite Telltale game, The Wolf Among Us. So if you like this game, tune in for that one as well, please. If you have any questions or different opinions on any of my choices, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. You can throw insults if you want, I don't mind. It's a free speech community for the most part on this channel. I'm also going to shill and request, if you guys are able to or will be willing to, please like the video, and if you even want to help a bit more, subscribe if you want. It really does help and keeps us motivated to keep making these videos. Of course, it's your choice, so if you don't want to, then I'm not going to judge. Why would I? It's stupid to judge. Have a great day, everyone.